Yeah. Oh man, I think we are back. Sorry about the technical difficulties. I can't promise there won't be more. But we are green as stream. Yep. And we're in. For everybody joining us on Whiting's Facebook page and on our Instagram channel, we are live on Whiting's Facebook page, so get over there and watch the video. I'm going to tie some soft hackles. And I stole Cheech's purple popsicle vise for tying on this tonight because it's pretty awesome and it has this fancy handle. And anyway, so I think we're good. Casey Thompson makes some bugs, I will. And we've got a bunch of people back on, so we're good. Again, if you're on Instagram, pop over to Whiting's Facebook Live. If you're on Facebook, then you're on. So one of the cool things I wanted to talk about tonight was all of the various options for tying soft hackles. So if you have not ever fished a soft hackle, that's a problem. Secondly, you need to tie soft hackles because they're really fun. You're not going to break the bank tying with soft hackles like you might with some of the higher end dry fly hackles, although they're really not that expensive when you get to thinking about it. So I'm going to tie 3 patterns tonight, all starting with this little Calabadis pattern. I think last week Phil Fisher did some Calabadis life cycle, which is one of my favorite hatches to fish in still water. So lots of options to throw Calabadis nymphs or emergers, but this is one I sort of stole the bead orientation idea from Cheech. But it's a pattern that I've fished for a lot of years, and you can use a bunch of different things for soft hackles. In this video, in this live video, if you want to see any of the stuff we're using, go to flyfishfood.com/whiting, and you'll see all the stuff we're tying with. That way you can, if I mention the bantam cape, you can go to there and see what the fuss is about the bantams. Or Hebert Minor hen saddles, Brahma hen capes, all the stuff that we're going to use. It's listed there. You can get more information on it. It's pretty straightforward. Okay. So Thomas Enos making fun of my audio-visual skills. Strong. Very strong. Anyway, so we've got 2 cameras. This guy, the wide-angle one, and then this guy, which is our macro lens. And this is the first time I've live streamed with this setup, so I think it's going to work. So anyway, without further ado, I'm going to put my old man glasses on, and we're going to get to tying. What, Brig?
Say it one more time, you guys.
flyfishfood.com/whiting.
And tell you guys what face.
And go to Whiting's Facebook page for the live session, which we're doing right now. All of you guys out there and out here, catch us. Thanks, Brig. Brig's my helper today. Okay, so what we have here is a 2x long nymph hook in the vise, and I've got a little 2.3 millimeter, 2.4 millimeter bead. And so this is going to be a soft hackle, but with a bead. I fish this on still water. When I'm fishing really shallow, I don't use the bead, but I like this little style where you tie the soft hackle in front of the bead. And so what I need to do is leave myself a little bit of space. In fact, we'll just get let the bead kind of do its thing and hang out there. So we're going to tie a body with biot. And when I tie biots, I like to reinforce them. So I'm going to tie in a little bit of wire. Let's see how we're doing there. I think you can hopefully see this. And got to leave myself enough room again to push the bead back when we're done here. And we'll leave the wire hanging off there. For the tailing material, now this one I go back and forth. This is one of my favorite pieces of feather, and this is a Hebert Minor hen saddle, which is the hen equivalent of a dry fly bird. Well, it is a dry fly bird, it's just a female. But the cool thing about Hebert Minor, or even the Whiting Red label Hen Saddles is that these are mega long fibers. Check those out. Let's get that right in the camera there. So if you want, you can tie longer, you can palmer more, wrap more around. You could also get 2 or 3 flies out of these, so that's really cool. On my Calabadis, for the most part, I'm doing grays, but I do like this. I can't remember if this is a ginger or not, but probably a ginger. But this one's nice. The one I'm going to use, however, again, if you go to the flyfishfood.com/whiting, you can see the information about this. The one, however, that I'm going to use is a 4B. Nope, sorry, I lied. We're going to tie with this little Brahma Hen Wing. We're going to save the 4B for another fly. So the Hen Wing, this is one we were at Whiting one time, and it might have actually been Phil Fisher. Saw a bunch of these in bins, and I don't know what was going to be done with them, but they weren't ready for sell. And I said, wow, these would make great little matched wings, or if you wanted to do like a partridge-ish soft hackle. So that's what I use these for, and we sell them. They're sold in matched wing pairs, but they've got, as you can see, the modeling there is perfect for partridge imitation. So what I'll do with these is just kind of size out the feather that I want, and kind of go length of the hook shank. So again, these are the Brahma Hen Wing pairs. Great substitute when you cannot find partridge, and it's also great because partridge doesn't come in gray, but these do. And so I'm going to use this in 2 parts. One is going to be the tail material, so I'll just peel off some of those for my little tail. And Calabadis have long, kind of squirrely bodies. And you could, like I said, you could really, it's a tough choice. I really like the brown or the gingerish colors on the Hebert Minor hen saddles. They work great for this style. So anyway, we've got our wire, we've got our tail. Now we're going to tie the biot. And this is just a turkey biot, a nature spirit. And what I want to do is tie this in so that the ridge is behind. So in other words, the notch is facing forward. And I'll tie that in and work my way forward. And again, you have to be mindful of where you are on this one so you don't push the bead all the way forward. Oh, Cheech is on there saying, Brig better not touch the vise. I get that. And Kelly Barnes is here. Kelly, you proud of me? I wore the shirt. This is my favorite rooster shirt. So I'm going to grab my hackle pliers and pull down the biot and start to wrap forward. And what that'll do is it'll make that ridge, which is along the back side of my biot right now, it will just make that follow up behind the wraps to right before the bead's gonna be set. And you need to leave yourself some space. So I'll come back up here. And if you work your way forward, that biot can just tear out of there. And again, we're leaving some space there. Grab my wire, and if you want to be fancy like me, I tend to use these Stomfo hackle pliers for wire, so I don't bugger up my C&F ones. Those are the money hackle pliers. And then I'm just going to follow the ridges all the way up. My finger's jiggling. So again, Calabadis bugs are a longer, slender nymph. So I'm just going to grab some hairline dubbing. And this will be the thorax area. And sometimes it gets a little dry. You can just grab some Overton's Wonder Wax. That's good stuff. I don't need a ton of it, just enough to adhere to the thread, get it a little dirty. And then just build up a little bit behind this bead. And then I'll pull that forward, advance my thread to in front of the bead. And then what we'll do here is we'll pull the bead back and then tie some thread wraps up against the front of it, like so. And that'll give us some tie-in for the actual. Oh, I don't want that. No. I think I can save face here. Okay, I think we're streaming again. Maybe?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, I don't know if I'm back. Can you see if I'm back there, Brid? Okay, I see that I'm there now. Sorry, guys. My internet went down the drain. That's why I'm giving CenturyLink the big kick in the butt. Goodbye, CenturyLink, once our fiber gets installed here. Okay. Couple of safety wraps in front of the stem, and that locks it in there so it doesn't slide off forward. And I will grab my hackle pliers and just twist that hackle plier as you wrap. That will help kind of preen those fibers back against the bead anyway. And so we've got one wrap, and then we'll do a half ish, maybe 1 1/3 or 1 3/4 to be exact. And we'll pull that up, tear off the tag end, and whip finisher up. And that is a fancy Calabadis soft hackle with a buyout body. And then of course when that gets in the water and gets wet, it's gonna preen back and undulate, and that's gonna be a killer little fly. So again, that's using the Brahma Hen Wing pair fibers, which have some really small ones up front, and then you can get larger soft hackle sizes going towards the rear of the wing. Awesome value. I think they're like $10. So awesome for soft hackles. Okay, looks like my internet's still going, so let's keep this going. Next is so this is a fly I've been nymphing with lately, and it accounted for 2 of my biggest fish in the last couple weeks. So this is a jig style nymph. It's a Euro nymph, other than the fact it's tied on a barbless jig and with a slotted bead. Nothing fancy that says you can't fish it with any rig you want. It is a nymph. It does have a bead, and so we're going to get started on that. If you want, you could throw some lead or lead-free wire up in there, or we can just throw some thread wraps, and that's going to lock our big old fat 3.2 or 1/8 inch bead. Again, if you want all the materials here, they're on our whiting page, which is flyfishfood.com/whiting. Okay, so this one is going to use another cool, newish whiting product. If you haven't been able to find Coq de Leon tailing packs for the last while, you were not alone. So when we were at Whiting a couple times ago, we sat down and said, well, let's figure this out. What can we use? And So we found some products there that work well for tailing packs. And so these are called Euro-Nymph tailing packs, or yeah, I think Euro-Nymph tailing packs, and they come in red and pink and dark Pardo, which is kind of your standard one, which is this color. They are awesome. Excellent quality. The speckling on them is superb. They are grown in Colorado. They're not grown in Spain, but they are genetically that Coq de Leon from Leon. We could call them Coq de Delta. Anyway, so we're going to come back here and tie in our little cluster of Coq de Leon tailing fibers, like so. And so this one's going to actually be a very simple body. I'm going to use some Perdigon tinsel, or Perdigon body, and we'll just tie that on there. So the idea of this fly here is that it's meant to be a quick sinking soft hackle that you can either kind of impart motion like a jigging motion, or you can just dead drift it like you would anything else. But it is tied on a bigger hook. So this is a size 12. I think this one happens to be the Umpqua XC400. If you've been trying to get hammocks and can't, this is a good alternative for that. And it's a great barbless jig hook. So what we've got here is just a simple tinsel body. And I'm too lazy to engage my cradle or my bobbin cradle. So we're just going to wrap the body up to about that point. Now if you want to be extra efficient, I would tack some UV resin on that, because this tinsel stuff is pretty weak, but you don't have to. In fact, do I even have my torch? Yes, I do. So you know what? We're going to do it, because when I fish this one, we're going to want that. So now I'm going to grab one of Cheech's bodkins, and I don't even care if it's meant to be used for glue, because it now is. And then grab my light and zap it. Look at that pop. Because as we all know, fish have UV rays that come out of their eyes. Not. Okay, now we're going to throw some dubbing on. Internet's still working. Score. So the thorax area is just going to be some peacock eye stub. And I'll throw a little bit, and this is going to be kind of what the soft hackle will be wound around and kind of front of. So that's the body, pretty straightforward there. Now for the hackle. Again, lots of options when it comes to partridge-ish or mottled brown and gray soft hackles. One of my favorites is this 4B Hen Saddle, and this is a variant. We listed as Flash Hackle 77 because we had a few hundred of them. There's still some left. I think you should be able to get them again on their website there. This is the one I like. You could still use the Hen Wing pair. You could also use like a Brahma hen saddle or a hen cape for that. Anyway, you're looking for something with good modeling, and size-wise, these are a little on the larger size, but in the next final video after this one, I'll show you some tricks to even make use of saddle hackle that's bigger and tie them in smaller size patterns. So again, I'm just looking at size-wise kind of the body length there. Okay. And what I'll do here is the same kind of deal as I did the last fly. I'm going to rip off the one side like so. So this is the, well, let's see, looking at it like that is the way you're going to treat the feather. And Actually, I'm going to cut a little bit more of that off. This one I want to be pretty sparse because I want this to sink fast, and I want it to have good movement. One of the things too is when you tie in your soft hackles, that first wrap of thread is going to kink the stem there. So you want to make sure that when you give that tug that it's pinching it so that when it wraps it continues that kink that way. If you kink it kind of off kilter, it's going to want to continue to go in that direction. So then the same thing I'll do here, you just pull that stem back and then I'll throw a couple of wraps in front of it. What that does is it makes it so that the stem's locked in a little bit stronger and that I can also come in here and just trim the excess. And grab my C&F hackle pliers. These are my favorite hackle pliers. They've got, number one, it's a nice ring so you can rotate. It also has this little bit of cushion. So when you go to make that initial wrap, it kind of absorbs your clumsiness, which my fingers tend to have. And as I wrap, again, rotate that stem. So you're rotating it counterclockwise, kind of as you wrap towards yourself. That helps those fibers to splay out at a 90 degree or a little bit back. If you don't twist that, it's going to be a little bit more unruly and those fibers are going to come out maybe forward. So I've done one wrap, transition in front, and we'll trim that. And then these are jammed down in there behind the bead, so that's kind of why they stand out. So what we'll do, we can do a couple things. Sometimes I'll throw in a little bit of dubbing, and that kind of will push those back, or you can just throw a few more thread wraps and it helps push those fibers back a little ways, like so. And then we'll just whip finish this guy. And again, this one has been probably caught more fish on this one nymphing the last couple times than I had any other pattern. And it's just soft hackle, so I kind of work it across the current, let it drift, and then give it some movement. Those hackles will move. And anyway, so pretty simple tie, nothing really fancy about it. As you know, you could use, again, lots of different soft hackles. I'll show you one of my favorite ones here in a minute, but the other thing you could use with this is Brahma hen capes, which come in a ton of colors, and we list a lot of the colors. We just got a shipment in these the other day, so you can buy a lot of the different colors that you want from there. So what you're looking for with soft hackles in general is Brahma hen cape or saddle, Hebert Minor hen cape or saddle, and then Whiting Red Label hen cape or saddle. So those hens are going to be webbier fibers, softer fibers, so they're not necessarily not going to tie dry flies with them necessarily, but they're great for having good movement in the water, and really for soft hackles you can't beat those. It's a good addition if you have partridge and you like partridge. These are just really killer options to have. Okay, I've been cruising here. What other questions?
Any other comments?
Everything's working good now that my internet bummed out. And it's back. Okay, nice. All right, let's move on to one of my favorite soft hackles. And that is the Magic Quilt Done. So this is a... I probably used this one the last, I don't know, couple years. 2019, yeah, it's probably the last time the first time I tied that. And I've got my hook in the vise, and this is actually one of my favorite hooks. This is a 5105 Fulling Mill heavyweight competition, or competition heavyweight. It's got kind of a sprout bend. The Umpqua, or Tiemco, was it XC290? Does that sound familiar? Similar cut to this one, similar bend, really good hook. So on soft hackles, a lot of times I like a bit of a heavier hook So if I want them to sink a little bit, I'm not going to add a bead like I'm not on this one. That heavier hook is going to allow it to get down a little bit quicker. If it's something where I need to fish it more in the film or closer to the surface, then I can opt for a lighter hook. So this is the hook that we're going to use here. And again, well, I'll get to that in a second, but lots of options for the actual soft hackle itself. And then just a side note, talking about thread with soft hackle. It's important to have a thread that won't crowd your eye, like on the first one. So this Calabadis, because you don't have a ton of space after the bead, you want to make sure your thread's not going to bulk up too much. And beyond the fact that it's been really hard to get UTC thread in any numbers, we've been using the Semperfli thread, and holy crap. So Semperfli Classic Waxed thread. It's phenomenal thread. This is a 12-aught. Oh, this is an 8-aught. The 12-aught's more kind of a little smaller than your 70 denier, Danville or UTC. But this is kind of, it can lay flat. It's strong. I feel I can get the wraps in there, and it's grabby. So on those soft hackles, you want to take advantage of each wrap, especially when you're locking in the stem to cut it, or after you've tied it off, you want to lock that in. It's really grabby, so it's waxed, but it's not, you don't feel any film on there, but it's super grabby. Lots of awesome colors. This is one of my favorite colors. We're using a pale olive. And anyway, just a side note on thread. Okay. Kelly's making fun of my eyeglasses. Yeah. You know what, Kelly? I wore the rooster shirt. These are awesome. If you're an older guy like me, 30-something, you can let them sit there like that. You can talk. Then, boom, right back to work. I cannot tie flies without readers on. It's pretty sad, but it's how it is. Somebody making more comments? Okay. Like running 2 cameras and a computer and having to deal with the likes of Kelly Barnes. All right, what am I doing here? Okay, yeah. So we need to tie in a tail, and I will grab some Dark Pardo Euro Nymph tailing packs, and these again are awesome for Euro nymphs or mayfly tail, any sort of dry fly or nymph that requires tails. They've got awesome speckling and bronzing. I think they call that the cuticle. That's one of the things that, in my theory, makes the Coq de Leon fibers so attractive, mostly to fishermen. Anyway, so we're going to tie in just a Coq de Leon tail. Promise I'm not from Utah. I kind of am now. I grew up in Eastern Oregon. Anyway, so we're going to put the tail in there. And the body on this is dead simple. It's this stuff called magic quill. Quail, tail, quill, quail. So it's somewhat transparent on one edge, and then it kind of transitions to a darker coloration on the other edge. And it's a little adhesive, so as you tear that off, you can kind of see it's going to give us a quill body effect. But the cool thing is it's somewhat transparent there on the edge, so that you can have your underlying thread, or if you wanted to use tinsel body or whatever as the base, that would show through. And so we're just going to, that's why I use the light or pale olive thread on this one. And I will tie it, just because I'm a little oddball here, I will tie it adhesive side up. And I'll show you why I do that. So I'll tie that in adhesive side up, and then I'm just going to taper up to the thorax area, and that's just going to cover up the rest of the tailing fibers. And I'll come back down, and it provides a little bit more color for those quills to show through, and then also some taper to the body. And we'll leave that right there as a thorax. How is a Semper Fly thread with hair? Michael Falconberry. You know what? I haven't tied a lot with this stuff. I have with the nano silk, and that works great. But yeah, that's one that would be good to try. So you could do this all fancy rotary style. And the reason, so again, the reason I tie that in upside down, or the adhesive side up, is so that when I start to wrap and I make that first turn, that it will be adhesive side down. And now look at that. That's like the bee's knees, as the kids say these days. That body is phenomenal. Now, if you look at the underside of a Blue-winged Oliver Batis, you'll see them be a little lighter. So that's kind of what this is meant to be all around. And tapers nicely. It goes on super smooth. And again, if you wanted to strengthen this, you could throw on your favorite UV resin, like a really thin tack-free stuff like Loon Flow, Solarez Bone Dry. You could use Loon Fluorescing. That's one of my favorites as well. Okay, now I'm going to back off to about where I want the thorax to be. And I'm going to put a teeny tiny bit of dubbing after I tie in my soft hackle. Now let's talk about soft hackle options. With Batis or any other sort of mayfly or even a midge, you often want to get really small wraps on these hackles, or you want, to accommodate smaller hooks. And again, usually you're talking kind of shank length of the fibers. So once you get into 16s, 18s, and 20s, your 4B hen saddle's not going to be the best just right off the feather. However, there's a couple things that we can do to make these bigger size feathers size down to the smaller size flies. So probably the first thing would be look for hen capes or necks. Those are going to give us the most variety of smaller sized feathers, right? Kind of in that sweet spot. And I mean, if you got really up onto the tip top there, I mean, that could be a 22. And you'd probably have enough for one wrap, maybe. So they're not too terribly long. But, I mean, you've got 20s through probably 8s on these hen capes. So this is a Brahma. Brahma comes in a lot of different colors. This is Badger Dyed Olive, one of my favorite colors for drakes, like soft hackle drakes or even blue-winged olives. Another option, and this is one of my favorite colors of Hebert Minor, and this is a Hebert Minor Hen Saddle. This is the pale watery dun. And again, because the hens are the females to the dry fly world of Hebert Minor, they are going to have longer-ish stems, hackle. So what that can do for us is if we take one of these off at the front, and I'll grab some hackle pliers here, and I can just lock into the very tip of the feather, and as you preen these back like so, you can see that I've got, now this is obviously way too small for even this fly, which I think is a 16, I can't remember. But as we preen these back, then you could tie this in, and you've now got the smallest of the small feathers ready to wrap on your soft hackle here. So I've done these in 18s. Not every feather is going to give you 18s at the very tip, but that's a good option to size down. And that's a hen saddle. So that's saying a lot. That's a pretty cool, you can use these for all sorts of sizes and purposes. So pale watery dun, Hebert Minor hen saddle. Again, flyfishfood.com/whiting. You'll see that there. But hands down, my favorite option for blue-winged olive, Batis, mayfly, whatever you want to call them, patterns is the Bantam. So this is a little, Dr. Whiting calls it a little blue. So they are a kind of a bluish dun, tiny, tiny little chicken. If you can imagine, just kind of running around. It's about the size of the bird. It's really delicate. And we do have a few of these left. There are not many of them left. They don't come around all the time. But they've got just insanely small feathers. And they're fairly long, even at the kind of tips here. So I can do 20s and 22s. They've got nice speckling on them, some of them. And so they're phenomenal for this type of application. So this is just going to be like a 2-wrap, super simple soft hackle. I will fish this either below, like you could do a Comparadon or some other rather floaty dry fly. This isn't going to weigh a ton, but you still want to have something that's not going to sink real fast. Or if you use like a CDC style, just put a lot of floating on there. And I'll do the same trick here. So I've just sized this to be right in that range. And then I'm going to throw some hackle in, or sorry, some dubbing. And I've raided Cheech's experimental dubbing dispenser. This is Bruiser Blend mixed with, I don't even know, squirrel? Mm-hmm. Probably squirrel. We need to do a video on how to make your own, oh man, what am I doing? Make your own squirrel dubbing, bruiser squirrel dubbing. Rewind. So I will tie in my hackle first. And then I like to pull that hackle up through the thorax. And I'm just using a little tiny bit of this dubbing, not much. And then in front of that, I can either snip it or yank it. And then we'll grab this end of it and then just pull that. Again, we're just looking for a couple of really short wraps through the thorax here. And this is intended to either mimic a crippled or drowned or emerging blue-winged olive. And so that's why we're tying it like that. And then we'll just go back over our fibers, yank this out, boink. And again, it's not a dry fly, so we don't care if it floats. We may want to grease it if it's if the fish are eating something on the surface. You can do that, of course. And we'll just throw a little whip finish on there. All right. So there is our Magic Quill soft hackle. We do have a tutorial for this on our website, on our YouTube channel. You can look that up. It's very similar to what I tied here using the Bantam hen capes. We do have these in saddles as well. And so again, the saddles, if you try the technique of tying them in at the tip, that can get you some bigger sized feathers used on smaller sized patterns. So nothing crazy about that. I think we're about there. Any questions on anything? I could throw together another one real quick, but I think we've gotten through most of them that we need to. Just to review because this is Whiting's channel, we talked about Whiting Brahma hen cape, great for smaller sized bugs. The Bantam hen cape, which I just used, also comes in a saddle. Little tiny birds, not always available. Lots of options with the Hebert Minor Hen Saddle. You can tie bigger. You could even do on some of these. You could do buggers. These are long enough to tie buggers if you wanted to. Certainly, like here's a style of a fly that I was messing around with, where I just kind of pushed the hackle to the whole body. On that one, I simply used this Hebert Minor Hen Saddle with, the stem is pretty long, and I just tied that with the wire in the back, tied the hackle in the front, went backwards, and then used the wire going forward to secure. But that's like a mega gigantic soft hackle style, which is really nice to do with the Hebert Minor Hen Saddles because they're longer fibers. And they're webby and they move in the water really great. So the Hen saddles on the Hebert Minor side, they're probably my favorite because the colors are phenomenal. Like this pale watery dun, that's just such a light, natural dunish color. You just kind of want to sleep on it. Anyway, so those are good. You could use those on Batis patterns as well. We talked a little bit about the 4B Hen Saddle. This is the variant one. From what I understand, 4B Hen Saddles won't be around a ton more. So those are ones you may want to grab sooner rather than later. But again, just some phenomenal colors on these. I like these variant ones that we have listed as Flash Hackle 77 because they have a white strip in the middle. And when you wrap them, you have that little white band around them, which is kind of cool looking. And then, what else did we talk about? Oh, yeah, our Brahma Hen Wing pairs. And again, if you're looking for partridge kind of substitutes on the non-partridge side, this is a great option. It comes in gray. This is the natural color there for it. And you can also tie these in by the tips and get the smaller sizes out of them. And I didn't have any here, but the other ones I talked about, but we don't have right here is the Red Label, Whiting Red Label, Hen Saddle, and Hen Cape. There's some good colors on those as well. So to recap, when you're tying soft hackles, lots of good options for both small flies as well as larger ones that you want to use. Probably two of the most common questions that we get asked on hackle, or at least soft hackle size and color, would be partridge. Like if partridge is sometimes really super hard to get. We happen to have a fair number of partridge skins right now, but probably half the year there are none. So the Brahma, Hen Wings, and Hen Capes and Saddles are phenomenal for that. The barring is very, very similar to partridge. And then the other question we get asked about, in addition to what could be used as partridge, is buggers. So a lot of times it's been a little bit more difficult to get bugger packs from Whiting, but we do have another product that we helped bring to market with Whiting, and they're called bugger patches. We call them bugger patches. And it's a different cut. It doesn't come from the same thing, but they work great for buggers. And they're only $10 a pack. So they come in grizzly claret, olive, brown. So anyway, good buggerish colors. But you could also do buggers if you really needed to with hen saddles. Speaking of, another question we get asked quite a bit is game changers. What do we use for game changers? And the Hebert Minor Hen Saddles are great for game changers. In fact, we've got a tutorial on that coming up soonish. On this tomorrow, we're dropping a tutorial using this pale watery dun. Yeah, it's just a quick tutorial. Cheech did it, so it's probably not worth watching. But using the Hebert Minor Hen Saddle. And Brig was kind enough to jump up and grab the bugger patches that we have. These are, this is a grizzly claret and burnt orange, which is great, and then a grizzly. So these
Grizzly Coachman Brown.
And Grizzly Coachman Brown and Olive.
Olive.
Yeah. So if you need to tie buggers, this is a great product that Whiting is just, I think we've had these few months is all. And could always be used for soft hackles as well. There's lots of good options there. All right, what else do we have here? Oh, Brig is Johnny on the spot. Yeah, let's actually open this one up because we have a couple minutes. These are the Whiting Red Label. Doesn't actually say that. I just know it because the label's red. Hen Capes. This is a brown. And again, you can see on these hen capes, because they go along the neck, the fibers are going to be shorter, so you can tie this would be a great one for Lance's red dart. The brown, lots of, I think we should have lots of brown. If not, we do have lots of brown. So get on this one. Great for smaller flies, but as well as larger ones. And if you look at the coloring on that, it's got some variation. It's not just pure brown, but it's a good one. There's too many feathers here. Here's a medium dyed done on the Red Label Hen Cape, which is, again, would be good for that previous one that I threw in there. This is the Coachman Brown, which is a popular dyed color. Darker, also great for the red dart. And this is one of my favorites, a Golden Olive. Let me get this opened up here. By Power of the Rooster shirt. Golden Olive is really a good color. I don't know which one you guys want to look at. Again, Whiting Red Label Hen Capes. So if you have any questions on anything, speak now or forever hold your peace. Yeah, it's been good. I've hopefully showed you a couple patterns you may be able to use. Again, if you want to see any of this stuff kind of digitally up close and personal, go to flyfishfood.com/whiting. And I think most of the stuff that we've been messing around with is on that page. If you're in Utah and want to stop by the shop, we've got all this on the shelves. Or you can just order it up online. Shoot us a question if you have anything. But we really appreciate you being here. Next week, you will have, I don't know if you call it the opportunity, but Cheech will be in the seat. And we'll probably make him use not the purple popsicle. Briggs says have him use something else. Like a Thompson A vise. Anyway, it's good. All right. Thanks, everyone. And we'll see you in some measure next Tuesday.